What is up, everybody? Jarrett from Empire of Assets here, and if you clicked on this video, you are probably wondering if you should consider grading your cards, whether they be Metazoo cards, Pokemon cards, basically any kind of card. This formula or little flowchart that I'm going to show you should work for almost all of them. This is something that I kind of built for myself, just because I've been sitting on a lot of cards, and in the sort of card world, in the card business, I guess, as a flipper, sitting on a lot of inventory isn't the best thing always. Obviously, with grading being shut down, it's understandable if you have a lot of cards that you're just waiting to submit that maybe don't make sense at the $100 grade level. However, PSA has brought back $50 grading to a kind of select number of people, but I expect more and more grading to continue to open up, and I think it's going to make more and more sense to basically send in more cards, and it's going to kind of get the flow of everything going again. So with that, I really needed to go through a lot of these cards and kind of clean out a lot of stuff, but I just hadn't done it because it was hard for me to decide which card should I grade, which one should I just sell, how do you know the difference? So I kind of sat down and I really thought about it, and I came up with this flowchart that is on your screen right now. If you want to take a little screenshot of it, I will continue to put it up during the video, showing kind of the path that we're following and all of that. And I do have a paper copy here. I'm just going to kind of walk you guys through it, whether you're brand new to grading cards, whether you're more experienced, but maybe you're like me and you just haven't found the motivation to do it, or you're just kind of stuck. Should I grade this card? Should I not grade it? What if it goes up in value in the future and then I wish I had it graded? What to do? And maybe then get some cards listed for yourself and get some money that you can then reinvest in other cards, as that is kind of the name of the game. If you can make 5, 10%, 15% every 2 weeks, that money's going to add up a lot quicker than sitting on a card for a year and then having it go up maybe 50%. The compounding is going to work a lot faster and a lot better for you. Obviously, the hard part of that is getting in good deals that you can consistently sell. So that's kind of the name of the game. But there's ways to do that, and that is not for this video. But without further ado, let's check out the Empire of Assets flowchart for grading cards. So here's my copy. Again, you guys have one on your screen. But we'll start with the very top, which is going to be, you need to look at your card and you need to self-grade it on a scale of 1 to 10. So if you don't know the grading scale, basically there's 4 components to how a card is graded. The centering of the card, so basically for a Pokemon card, you're going to be looking at the edges. We'll take this nice card here. So is this edge the same size as this edge? And is this one the same size as this one? And then is the back also, are they all pretty close? That doesn't have to be 100% perfect to get a PSA 10, but I believe it has to be within 40 and 60, so 60% on one side, 40% on the other side, or maybe it's 55-45. I don't remember exactly. But centering is the first one, and then you have your surface. So is there any scratches, or is the surface clean of any imperfections? You have the edges, which obviously the back is going to be the biggest deal for a Pokemon card, being that they're dark blue. Any sort of white is going to take away from the grade. And then you have your corners, which is basically the same as your edges. Pokemon cards, it's not as important because they're rounded corners. Again, you just don't want any whitening on there. But like with a square card, like let's take this UFC card, if there is any sort of like kind of denting, or it's kind of a soft corner where it's not perfectly sharp in the corner, that is what they're looking for on the corners. So that's the four parts of a grade. So you're going to sit down and you're going to really look at the card. I have a nice bright light here that I use for recording. I kind of turn that down and I really look at the card under the light, and you want to do a really thorough inspection. You want to make sure that you can kind of see the surface, see if there's any scratches on it. You want to really look at the centering, and you want to assign it a grade. And it's always better to be a little tougher on the cards than real graders probably were, because you don't want to give all of your cards 10s and then find out they come back 8s, 9s, maybe even 7s. You really want, if it is a 10, if you're grading it a 10, you really want it to hit a 10. And if it's a 9, you really want it to be a strong 9 with maybe a chance of a 10. You definitely don't want it to go the other way, where maybe it's a 9, but it's likely an 8. So accurately grade your cards is the first step. And I like to do this before you look up the prices, because I think it's a little more honest assessment. If you don't know that the card in the PSA 10 is worth $1,000, and maybe it's really a 9 and a 9 is only worth $300, you're probably more likely to give an accurate grade if you don't know those numbers. Maybe you just know it's a fairly expensive card. So I like to make a couple of piles. When I just did this, I did a pile of 10s, a pile of 9s, and a pile of kind of everything lower than that. And then those ones I look through afterwards. Most of those cards I'm just going to sell anyways, because there's very little reason to ever grade a card that's lower than a 9. So I made 3 piles, and then the next step is going to be to look at the sold listings on eBay of that card in the grade that you assigned it. So I made a big spreadsheet, I put all the cards in here, and then I went on eBay and I looked them up. So I looked up my 3 piles, and this was the stack that ended up being worth grading. Most of these I graded a PSA 10, or I at least think I have a shot at getting a PSA 10. And I'll do a video on my sub, but there's some nice first editions in there, some hollows. There's, I think, only 2 or 3 cards that I said were like a 9.5, so maybe a 10, but probably not a 10. And then there's just maybe like 1 or 2 9s that are just really big cards that actually end up being worth grading, even if they do get a 9. One of those is the Gyarados. See if I can find him here for you guys. Not that one. I think it is this one from Heart Gold Soul Silver. I think I gave this card like a 9 or a 9.5, and it's definitely worth grading, even if it hits that grade. So on our flowchart, I have the cutoff of $120 is kind of our next step. Is that eBay sold listing more than 120, or is it less than 120? And you can pick whatever number you want here based on kind of your risk tolerance and the cost of grading. Like I said, PSA is kind of open for $50 right now. You have to buy their $100 year-long subscription, and then you have to get in a raffle, and you can only grade 5 cards at $50. But I have seen a lot of the people that do group submissions are open for $50. So I don't know if you went through them, and you could do as many cards as you wanted. Be super careful doing that. You have to trust the person that is handling your cards, basically with thousands of dollars in a lot of cases. And there has been some news recently of some people doing some sketchy shit with other people's graded cards and not being able to pay PSA, and it's kind of a tough thing. So you really, really, really want to go through somebody trustworthy. So just be careful when you're doing that. I picked 120 because at $120, if you sell it on eBay, you take 88% because you lose 12% for fees, which is like $105, I believe. And then you take $5 for shipping, and just a plain white envelope gets you to a nice $100 that you should be making per card. And then whatever grading is right now, it's $50 is just kind of what I'm using. So that takes you down to about $50, and then whatever you have in the card, and that's what you're left with profit. I just think it makes sense at $120. Like I've talked about before, you make all the money in a card when you buy it. So if you're buying a card for $75 and the best it can do in the grade you got it is $100, you're going to lose money on that card regardless, unless the market really goes up. So if instead of selling it for $100, if you can grade it, or you can sell it for $75 how you bought it, or maybe even a little less, like $50. So you're either going to lose $25, or you grade it for $50, and then maybe you break even on the card. It's not great, but it's better than losing $25. So even in some instances where you're upside down on a card, it does make sense to grade it. So that's something to keep in mind. So then we're going to move to the next step, and let's say it is more than $120. So you're going to grade the card. That was kind of the whole point of this. You've decided it's worth it to grade it. So you're going to either go through somebody, like I said, try and do PSA yourself, wait until PSA opens up the $50 tier to everybody, whatever that is. So you're going to grade the card, and then the card's going to come back to you. And at this point, it is a crucial step to look at the grades that you assign to the cards yourself, and look at what PSA gave them, and then note any discrepancies. Maybe a card came back a 6, and you look it over and there was a dent, a binder ding, that automatically basically knocks it down to a 6 that you didn't notice. And you kind of want to see, how did I do? If I said it was a 10, did it most likely get a 10? Did it most likely get a 9? How accurate am I? Do I need to toughen up my grading standards a little bit? Or did I have some 9s that came back 10s? Maybe I was almost too harsh on my cards, which I still think is probably a good thing. But just kind of compare so you can get better for the future. As you move down the road, your grading gets more accurate, because this whole model really depends on how accurately you can grade the cards yourself. So then, the next step says PC cards or long-term hold cards, which I have as high-grade Charizards, old like 2003 to 2008 EX cards, and then level X silver border cards, and also all art cards are my long-term hold cards. So PC, anything that's a Dragonite for me, I'm going to hold on to that card, just because I'm trying to collect all of the Dragonites. If you really, really like a card and you subbed it, regardless of what it's worth, just keep it for yourself, especially if you're doing a lot of cards and a lot of turnover and you don't need the money. Just hang on to the card. The value of it will probably go up, and that's the whole point of collecting, is to build your own personal collection, at least for most people. So a PC card I'm always going to hang on to. And then these long-term hold cards. Now this is, again, something where if you need the money, absolutely just sell the card. But for me personally, I'm trying to do enough volume and sales and really get this thing ramped up to the point where I can hold on to some cards that I think are more of the holy grail type cards. So any high grade, I'm talking PSA 10s most likely, possibly PSA 9s and some of these cards that are really tough to get. But just cards that are always going to be bulletproof, basically the blue chips of Pokemon. First edition, Wizards of the Coast stuff probably falls in this category. And this is another thing that you kind of set for yourself. Again, there's some generally probably agreed upon stuff, but it can also be things you think are undervalued. I personally think a lot of the EX silver border cards that I talked about, the old school ones with the lowercase EX, not the big EX, I think a lot of those cards are undervalued for the populations of them. The populations are a lot smaller than a lot of the Wizards of the Coast stuff, and I just don't think the values have caught up for a lot of them. And I really, really like those cards. So that's kind of like a borderline one for me. Alternate arts. This is the brand new 2021, 2022 alternate art cards. I personally have considered these a long-term hold. Yes, there's probably going to be a lot of them out there, but these cards are probably the best artwork ever done on a Pokemon card, I would say, probably ever. If you take away people's biases and you showed somebody the cards that's never been into Pokemon, are they going to say that, we'll grab this, we'll pick on this Kangaskhan or whatever. Are they going to say this card's more beautiful or one of the Evolution's full art, alternate art cards that are absolutely gorgeous? Obviously, they're going to pick that card. So I think even with that, there's going to be a lot of them. But I think going forward, those cards are going to be absolutely kind of the best cards to come out of this Sword and Shield era going forward. And they're pretty cheap. You can probably sell a lot of them. I know I bought a Dragonite SGC 10 a while back for like 130 bucks. So yeah, is 130 bucks going to really change a lot for me? No. So I'm just going to hold on to that card. I think those cards will be worth a lot of money. 5-10 years from now, I think those cards will be looked upon very favorably. So if it falls in one of those categories, yes, you're going to hold it, put it in the safe, put it in the vault, sit on it, and then readdress it once a year maybe. See where you're standing and see what your goals are. But hold on to those. If it doesn't fall in any of those categories, which is probably going to be the majority of cards, hopefully you can't keep everything. You got to let some stuff go. You got to keep cash flowing in. It's the lifeblood of any sort of business. You are going to sell the card. So that's that half. If it's less than $120, it's pretty much the same steps. So I'm going to go a little quicker. But basically, you're going to keep the card raw. It's not worth it to grade it. Obviously, like I said, let's say grading goes down to 20 bucks. Maybe you drop that number down to it's less than $75. So now if it's worth more than 75 bucks, you're going to grade it because grading is so much cheaper. But either way, right now it's 120. So you keep the card raw. And then here I have PC cards. So again, there's just some PC cards like, what do we got? Oh, geez. We'll say like this Dragonite right here. It's not a great Dragonite card, but I want one of them because I'm trying to get one of every Dragonite card. This card, even in a PSA 10, is probably worth 60 bucks. But it's a PC card, like I said, so I'm going to hold on to that. I think everybody understands what a PC card is and why you would hold on to it. And then the other one I have here is high potential versus sale price. So what this basically means is, do I think the card has a good potential of going up versus how much it costs right now, and also considering that $20 grading. So I got two different examples for you guys here on my desk. So this is a stack of cards that just aren't worth selling because I think they're so cheap it's not going to make any difference at all. And I think long term they'll do good. So that is the black and gold Zacian and Zamazenta promos. Those are only available in the premium ETBs and the ultra premium Zacian V collection. Or maybe it's, yeah, I think that's what it's called. And I just think those cards, they're promos, so yeah, there's a lot of them, but that's a more premium product. I think they will be looked upon favorably, and the black and gold is just pretty badass. It's a cool card, so I think they'll do really well. Another card on here is all of the amazing rares. These are worth like $1.50, and they're just really neat cards that just don't make sense to me to sell for less than $5 a card. By the time I pay shipping, it's not even worth it. So those are another one that I just think in the future people want to collect full sets of those. So it makes more sense to hold on to than it does to sell for $1.50. So that's what I mean versus the high potential versus sale price. And then one other one that I have on here is a bunch of these Prism Star cards. I actually really low-key like these cards. The black border on them that is holographic, you can see it right here, how it kind of has like the same hollow pattern through the whole card. I think it's actually really cool. I really like the black border. So those are another card. And then I do have one other pile here that I was going to show you guys that has a rubber band around it. Okay, so this is another set of cards that I decided to hang on to. And it is all base set cards that are PSA 9s in my judgment. And the reason I'm holding on to these is it doesn't really make sense to grade them right now. Yeah, the Mewtwo and the Gyarados. I don't have any of the big three in here, so it's all the other cards. But like the Gyarados, the Mewtwo are probably worth grading, but it just doesn't make sense right now for me. But base set unlimited is always going to be an incredibly popular set, so I'm going to wait until grading comes down. I'm fine sitting on these for a while, so I'm going to wait and then grade them at PSA 9s and then try and maybe finish a full set or something to sell. So that's another card that just doesn't make sense for me to sell right now. PSA 9 or PSA 8 even, unlimited Wizards of the Coast stuff. There's probably not going to be too much more of it added to the pop. A lot of the stuff getting added now is garbage grade 7s, 6s, 8s. So those make sense to hold on to. And then I also kept a huge stack of PSA 10 cards that just don't make sense to grade right now, but I think will in the future. And I'll just kind of show you guys. There's some Topps Living Set stuff in here for Star Wars. If you guys know any of those cards, I really like a lot of those with Baby Yoda's rookie card. But then you got like some first edition non-hollow Kabutops. We'll just flip it like this so you guys can see. Some Rainbow Rare Tag Team cards, another one, a Jirachi GX, some Pop One or Pop Series stuff. Just stuff that, like, if I hit a 9 right now, it's really bad, like maybe 40 or 50 bucks. But if you hit a 10, it's worth a lot of money. So these are just cards that I think, like these ones especially, they're beautiful cards. And like I said, I was really strict on these, and I think they are PSA 10s. So I'm just going to hold on to them. The actual odds of finding a lot of these cards in like a PSA 10 in the wild isn't great. So the fact that I have them, and then there's some Metazoo stuff, and just some cards that I think are really cool that just haven't hit that nice value yet. So I'm going to hold on to these. There's no sense, like this one here, I love this card. Gold bordered Venusaur EX. Absolutely beautiful card, in my opinion, and it didn't really meet the threshold that I set for it. So I'm going to hold on to those. Just don't want to sell potential PSA 10 or pretty likely PSA 10 cards when I don't have to. I'd rather just hold on to them and grade them when the prices come down and I can grade them myself. So that's all of those cards. Otherwise, obviously, again, if it doesn't meet any of these criteria, you are going to sell them. And that is what I have been working on all day. I'm actually making this video to take a little break. But I have been listing tons and tons of cards. We got some shining stuff here. Doesn't move the needle for me. All that stuff is getting listed. So there is a link to my eBay page in the description, I believe. Check that out if you are looking for any sort of Metazoo cards, Pokemon cards, couple sports cards up on there. I'll do 10% off of what I put on eBay for anybody just because I don't have to pay the fees. So if you reach out to me either in email, empireofassets@gmail.com, or on Instagram, it's just Empire of Assets and it's got my logo with the 3 little pointy things. Reach out to me on either of those with what cards you're interested in. I would be more than happy to work out a deal with you. But ultimately, that's all I had for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the flowchart. I hope it helps some of you maybe sort through some parts of your collection that you haven't been or that you've been neglecting, and it can either get you a good pile of cards that you need to grade or a good pile of cards that you should sell, or really help you reassess your values and what cards you want to hold on to and which ones you just want to get rid of. If you watch to this point, you are an absolute MVP. I thank you so much. If you're not subscribed, consider hitting the subscribe button. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.